Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back again. So today's subject is, well, is your computer feeling kind of slow? Might be able to help you with that. Maybe. All right. Now, this video is only for Macs running a native supported OS on the Mac. So if we're talking about Macs using Open Core Legacy Patcher, no, this does not apply because you're automatically going to get slugged down and there is no fix for it. It's just a simple fact that when you run an unsupported OS on a Mac that doesn't support it, expect much, much higher thermals, even at resting points, and expect to be running more sluggy than it does with its own native last supported OS. Okay? So, that being out of the way, let's continue on, shall we? Now, one of the things we experience with a brand new computer, it runs really fast. We're like, oh, yes, thank you for the brand new technology. Okay? And everything's going fine. And then perhaps several months, maybe a year down the line, it starts to seem like it's slowing down. Well, you've got OS updates and you think, well, that's just part of Apple's way of, making us want to buy a new computer. They intentionally slow them down. Well, actually, no, they don't. Not intentionally, anyways. What happens here is as we receive macOS updates, they come as just that, an update. Even when a whole new operating system is released initially, it's released as an update, not as a pure install, okay? And updates don't come without their problems, one of which is things do seem to slow down a little bit. Maybe even your thermals could be getting a little higher too than normal because there's just something not right about that patch of that new version of the OS. And it takes a couple weeks to usually a month before Apple will have an actual full install available for us on the App Store. And usually a couple months after that, and we can just do a system reinstall via the server by just holding down that power button until you go into options, because we're talking about Apple Silicon stuff here, right? Anyways, so there is nothing better than a pure, unadulterated copy of an OS. But that's not how we get things. But then we also get updates to that OS too, as you know. And it can appear as though things are slowing down a bit. And, well, there's always some bug fixes, but new bugs arise, which is true. And it could be just as simple as something that's just not working right with some software, or who the hell knows? There's no way to really say what's causing the problem. But under the normal circumstances, it's nothing more than you've been doing nothing but updating and updating and updating your OS, and you've never reloaded your OS clean since you bought your computer, because you figure, well, hey, it's invaluable, it's a Mac. And the PC world is very much the same way. People just go update, 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 update. Hell, even I did that too, and, well, it gets you into more trouble than what it's worth at a certain point with a PC. But at least Macs, usually takes quite a while before some really funky stuff could happen. So one of the things I like to do generally is about every 6 months to a year, I'll reload my computer clean, which means when I talk about doing a clean OS install, I'm not talking about, just doing an install. I'm talking about you're going to start up with that power switch. You're going to hold it down till it comes to the options menu. Then you're going to fire up until you get to the launching menu where you have disk utilities available or reinstalling your Mac OS. Now, you can reinstall the Mac OS over top of an existing one. You may end up with a relocated items folder, or you're just overwriting what's there already. Who knows, right? But the best thing you can do is fire up the disk utility program, okay? And in that, I've discussed this before on the channel, but we'll talk a little bit about it here today. So you want to go up to your top view menu. Now, I know you guys are going to have a bit of a time seeing this, but, I do have videos on this subject, okay? So on disk utility here, I don't know how well you can see my mouse moving around, but at the top it says disk utility. If you click here, you click show all devices when you're in the disk utility, when you're in this part of the install process, okay? And you want to show all devices. Then you want to go to the very top container, which in this case would be the Kingston SKC 3000, da 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 da. Okay, so that's the external drive that we got going on. That's the NVMe that's in that case. Okay, so in the case of your internal drive on your Mac, that would be Apple SSD at the very top, and you'll notice a red bar going across, right? You'll also notice Container Disk 3, Mac HD volumes, Mac HD, and data. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to go to here, and then you want to click the erase button. Okay, then it's going to tell you a prompt window, and that you're going to erase and restart. Okay, and it's going to format your drive completely naked. So if you do have anything important on your main drive, back that up before you do this stunt, because you're going to be wiping the drive clean, like naked, like nothing on it. Okay, zipball zero zilch. Okay, that is how you format all, even external drives, when you're going to format a drive. Okay, you never go to 1 terabyte HD. You go right to the very top and you wipe it that way, because then it all gets formatted and cleaned out properly. Okay, this way guarantees you ain't nothing left behind. All right, so that's how you're going to do that. And then once that's been done, your computer restarts. It'll bring you back up to the launch menu with your options. And at that time, you can click to reinstall, in this case, Mac OS Sequoia. Okay, and then you just, wait your time out for however long it takes on your computer to have it done based on your internet connection and blah, 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 blah. Okay? So, when you're done this, now we can go back to here a bit. When it is all said and done and your OS is reinstalled, you will now have a pure, non-updated version of Mac OS. Okay? And your computer is going to start feeling like snappy brand new again. Okay? So now, that is not to say that a newer OS can't slow your computer down a little bit, because the bigger the operating system gets, the more drive space it takes up, the more performance it takes from your computer, and obviously the more RAM it bleeds out of your butt too for how much it wants. Currently, Sequoia wants just under 8 gigs. Okay? So, in a 16 gig machine, you got RAM to play with. In an 8 gig machine, you're in virtual territory for everything you do. So, probably not a good idea, right? Anyways, so, but with 16 gigs of RAM or more, you're fine. So your computer should start feeling, excuse me, getting over a cold here. Your computer should start feeling like brand new again, or relatively close enough. But you're pretty much guaranteed it is definitely going to be a hell of a lot snappier than it was to start with. Okay, and I notice this every time I reload a Mac, that something was going on. It's not malware, it's not a virus, no, you're not being hacked. It's just that software, when it's on an SSD or a hard drive, it doesn't matter, things get cluttery, things get fragmented in file systems as you're using your computer day to day and doing things. Okay, so eventually that all builds up, and well, eventually it actually slows you down. And in some cases it can slow you down quite a bit. So it just kind of depends on what you're doing, right? But this is one of the biggest things that people not only overlook, they don't even understand how to do this process. It's really not that difficult, okay? You had to touch the power button to turn it on. Well, you just push it in and you hold it there until it's time for the screen to tell you the hard drive icon or options. Then you click on options, okay? And when it comes time to install the OS, finally, you click on the drive icon and then you tell it to install and let her go, okay? Then once you're done and you're back up to your desktop again, then you just re-download the programs from the App Store that you need, okay? Like GarageBand, of course, is not going to be part of an OS reinstall. It's only there the first time you bought your Mac new, same as iMovie, Keynotes, Pages, Numbers, okay? Those programs are optional programs that you can or can just say no to. All right. So, because not everybody likes iMovie, some people prefer DaVinci. So, if you don't like iMovie to begin with, yes, you can delete it from your system. Saves you on some space. Same with GarageBand. Instead of going through firing it up and downloading all the updates, which are going to be there for eternity until you reformat, well, delete it ahead of time if you're never going to use GarageBand. Because otherwise, the first time you fire it up, it starts installing, it starts downloading sounds and taking up space. All right, so take it for what it's worth. At least when you do a fresh, clean OS install, it now becomes an option to even download GarageBand, iMovie, Keynotes, Pages, or Numbers. All right, so it's optional stuff. Aside from that, everything should go fine. All right, then you just re-download, like I said, the programs that you want from the App Store, the programs you want from internet places that you go. Like I use open source program. Well, I use Handbrake for compressing videos, and I use what the hell's the name of it now? It's my word processor. I keep forgetting the name of the damn thing. Anyways, doesn't matter at this point. Point is, I use an open source version, and it's compatible with Microsoft Office and so on. So just re-download your stuff, and you'll notice that your computer's going to run a lot more better for you. Now, if you've reformatted your computer and you've reloaded everything all clean properly as per discussion here, and it's still doing the same thing, then you may have a problem somewhere else. Okay, now that underlies from two other issues. Okay, your computer is definitely getting dated, and you're probably on the last supported OS, okay, which you shouldn't be on any M1 at this point, not even close. But should that be an occurrence, then that could explain slowdown of it's just too big of an OS and you don't have enough RAM. Okay, which 8 gig machines won't have enough RAM, and you can't do anything to speed them back up, because the older OSs ran better and faster even with 8 gigs. But once we started getting up past Monterey, things started to get a little bit more demanding with 8 gigs, but with 16 gigs we were still wide open and free, and performance was not an issue. Now, thermopaste is one thing that can also cause issues with slow, sluggy performance. Can also cause crashes, freeze-ups, okay, because the thermal paste is bad. This can happen, okay. Now, repasting a processor on an M series chip is not a big deal to do. It's relatively straightforward. There's lots of videos on it. iFixit even has lots of breakdown diagrams, step for step, for every Mac on how to do this stuff, so you're going to be okay. Don't worry about it. You can't really screw it up. But it is possible that some people have problems even from the get-go, and that could be simply either a defective machine somehow, or you've got bad thermopaste. It wasn't done right. Because if there's not enough thermopaste, it becomes a problem. When there's too much thermopaste, it doesn't seem to really hurt anything, because believe me, even I've messed up putting too much thermopaste on. Didn't make a damn sweat of difference. It was fine, okay? Better to have a little too much than too little, because too little, things get cooked. Too much, it's not a big deal, okay? But there's a limit to too much, too. So watch a lot of videos on how to do thermal pasting properly, and it took me a few tries, but I finally figured it all out, and I was fine after that, and it wasn't a disaster, ugly mess. So, hey, I'm not perfect either. Nobody is, and probably the first couple times you ever thermal paste any computer, it's going to be interesting, but you'll learn the skill over time, okay? And you'll learn how much to really put there by just back and forth guinea pigging, okay? But we have heard tell of some Apple systems that have had bad thermal paste and that it wasn't done properly at the factory, and that's why we've had a lot of overheat issues. We've had freeze-ups that were happening, and the cause was nothing to do with the SSD or anything more than the thermal paste was not properly done, okay? It was just not enough on there, or it was enough to cover, but it was too thin, which also causes a problem, because you're not to have direct metal-to-metal contact between the top of the heatsink, okay, the plate, and the top of the processor die. It's supposed to have that barrier of that paste there, So it's a pretty critical thing. Anyhow, so, but that's the starting point if you're starting to feel like it's slow. But it is true, though, that over time, with enough OS updates nearing the end of the service life of the machine, it can be getting slower even with a fresh format and reload. It's not that your hardware is bad, it's that the software is so demanding, but it's not Apple intentionally making your computer go do that. It's the simple fact that the computer is not designed to handle that newest version of the OS, and so you are going to have to expect some slowdown. All right, and that's all there is to it, and there's really nothing you can do about it, other than, well, you can try going backwards, but Apple's getting faster and faster at cutting off all support for OSs when they cut them off. They're tending to be a little bit more shy on how much extra, like even security updates we seem to get. Depends on the device, though, right? So it's a pig and a poke on that one. Anyway, so that's what I got for you on this one. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Give it a shot. I mean, I reload my computers, whether they need it or not, once or twice a year. It freshens everything up, freshens up my software, and it does fix any slowdowns that I've come across. And believe me, you will, and it does happen. But that's some of the things that can happen that can do it, and ways in which you can go about hopefully resolving that problem. Okay? See ya.